Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Karen Russo, and I'm a longtime member of the New Vision Center, and I'm so honored to be part of our stewardship conversation. And today's topic is work, worth, and wealth. So we're going to go on a little journey with this idea of contribution. What is it that we give to life, and what is it that we receive? And we're going to see how we can expand our capacity in the natural harvest. Natural, meaning the divinity of life, that is the truth of who we are, and harvest, which means how is it showing up for us individually and collectively. Now, stewardship, we typically think of that as the Octobers at the Centers for Spiritual Living, where we talk about time, talent, and treasure. So if stewardship is caring for that which is important. Over the years, I've written a book years ago called The Money Keys, and so I took a good hard look at how does spirituality and money come together. And so for me, Octobers have often been like, Reverend Karen, would you come out to our center and talk about, treasure? Like, make sure people know they should tithe. And I'm always happy to do some version of that, but today, treasure's handled here. We're going to talk about time and talent. So we're really going to dive into our experience of work. And so I invite you, think about for yourself personally, what is up for you with work? So what's up with you in your profession, or if you're retired in your investments, or if you're a volunteer or you give service, what is up for you around your experience of working? And what can shift, what can change, what can grow deeper. So when it comes to work, I know in my life, I came up with the idea that I am a hard worker. So I had the belief that I could have what I want if I work hard and struggle. Was it just me? Okay. So having what we want, if we work hard, and I am a hard worker, is sometimes a pretty common experience. I am a hard worker. And when I came into spiritual teaching and spiritual community, there was an opening up that said, the presence of God, the infinite spirit, that spiritual source, operates through channels like work and jobs and projects. And then I give in that way, and I receive. I get compensation. And that was an elevation of the idea of work. So I don't just work hard, I work for something. And I think we can go even higher with an elevation of the idea of work. And the first place is to think less of like, I'm lucky to have this job, and more like, there's a way for me to be of service. So service is a higher idea of work. And we have a quote, I believe, from Dr. Ernest Holmes' Science of Mind, and this is from the glossary of the textbook. Dr. Holmes says, service is the keynote to success and implies constructive work, also loyalty to your work and to all concerned in it. And so one of the quickest ways to make a shift if there's a feeling of heaviness around the work that you do is to realize that you're not just lucky to have that gig, that job, that thing. They're lucky to have you because what you have to give is a blessing, a lifting to all that are concerned. So having our work elevated to a plane of service, that starts to lift us up. And it can also open up this idea that we work like we don't need to. So you've probably heard the phrase like, work like you don't need the money. And Reverend David Robinson was here in our first week of the Stewardship series. He reminded us that we don't really need money. We need or want or desire the things that money can do for us. And ultimately, what we really need and want is the spiritual quality we get when we have those things. And so that can elevate us as well. So instead of like, I know some of you might be thinking, girl, I need to pay the rent. It's like, I agree, you need to pay the rent. But if we all are just like, I need to pay the rent, and I'm praying just to pay the rent, then guess what you need to do next month, is the same kind of need-based desire. And there's something kind of wonderful when we can go to this place of like, what I desire is self-sufficiency and freedom and expansion, and then we say, just pray for that. So that's a little piece about work. Work can be elevated to a place of service. And I would ask you, particularly if you've been active here at the New Vision Center, to really open your hearts. Where am I called to serve? I don't know about you, but Bethany has me thinking like, I want to help out Arizona Helping Hands. Who's with me? It's like, right? It's like, yeah. So where are you called where there's a need or a desire? And the world is giving us many opportunities as we emerge out of pandemic, and there's challenges, environment and justice and wars and challenges, so many places. There are opportunities for us to bring a spiritual viewpoint and to bring what we have to offer. All right. The next piece is worth. So, worth, it's not our balance sheet, and it's not our resume, and it's not our demographics. Worth is the essential nature of who we are. And one of the things I noticed is that sometimes language and prepositions can act as a little bit of a barrier to us. So if I say, there's a spiritual source that operates through a channel to me so I can do something to get something, you can hear all those throughs and twos, right? It's like a sense of separation. And so worth is anchored in the language-less, preposition-free idea that we are the source, right? That infinite, spiritual, abundant, eternal reality is the nature of who we are. So it expresses, and here it comes, as us or with us or within us. But that's the thing. It's not just, I'm lucky to have this job, but the infinite flowing through me, that's what creates reality. I am the source. And so there's a thing about our identity, that life will agree with us whatever we say we are. So I had an experience recently that, it changed the way I think about my identity, and also changed the way I think about each and every one of you. Many of you know that in addition to the work that I do in spiritual communities, that for like 30 years, I've been involved in the training and development corporate type of world. And for years, I used to sell those training services to companies. And then like 30 years ago, I started as a contract trainer. So the training company calls on the bank or the tech company or whomever and gets a gig. They find a need. And then they schedule some classes. And then they hire contract trainers to come in and deliver the class. So the stakes are always high. The clients are demanding, and the participants are skeptical. And it was that way in 1992. And over the years, I've always enjoyed doing this, and I've had a journey, at times where it was like, it felt like I had to work hard. I hope they like me. I hope I don't disappoint them. That kind of energy. And it's evolved. It's come up over the years. And so just recently, I got a call, and it was, we've got a big contract with a painting company. You all would know the name, out of Cleveland, a global company. For 9 years, they've had the same contract trainer. She's beloved. And now she can't do the in-person trainings for this year, so we need someone new. So can you step in? So I say, of course. This one felt like it was a good fit. So we're going back to in-person training, and I'm following in the steps of a beloved trainer. So the stakes are high. The client's even more demanding. And those participants, they're even more skeptical. And these days, they're just on their phone the entire time. Yeah, yeah. And so I did what I do. I put myself, the first thing I do, I don't necessarily tell them this, right? But the first thing I do is open my heart. And I really think about them. So these are sales managers who are managing sometimes 16 and 17 reps over hundreds of miles of geography. And their folks have been coming out of, pandemic and product shortages. They got a lot of pressures on them. And I really I care, and I believe, and I know what it's like to be a salesperson, and I don't have an ounce of that, it's corporate America where apparently God is not. I don't have any of that. It's like, I know how cool their jobs are. It's really interesting. And I prep the stuff, the delegation module and the feedback module. And I got myself caring about them. And so, the class begins, and it's a 2-day, their 4-day classes with me, and we're doing the modules, and I'm asking, what do you think, and how does this relate to you? And, one of the guys from New York, he's got a rep who's a bit of a slacker, and later I said, how does that apply to that Brooklyn coaster? And we all laughed. Oh, that coaster in Brooklyn? We had a little in-joke, and the exercises went well, so, it's all going well. And at the end, they finished their 2 days with me, and people were coming up and they were saying the thing that's been said to me for 30 years. This was so much better than I thought it would be. Which is a very interesting thing for people to say, because at some point you're like, how low were your expectations? And, I'm happy to hear it. And then I got a couple of the ones which I've also heard, which is, this is the best training I've ever been to. And it's like, oh, really? And what I know about that is it's called a recency bias. They've been to something better somewhere in their life, but all people ever remember is the thing they just did, right? So fine. So it's better than you thought, recency bias. And then there's a woman from Minnesota, Heidi from Minnesota, and she looked at me and she said, Karen, you are a unicorn. And I just about started to cry. Because I knew what she meant. I don't think she meant mythical creature prancing in the forest with sparkles. Although some of you I know would love that, right? Unicorn. What she meant when she said, Karen, you are a unicorn, was she meant no one but you has what you could bring to this thing. And I don't know if all the pieces, because I don't talk about all my background or everything like that. It's kind of an interesting gig. It's like they are not interested in any stories that aren't about them. So I didn't verbally say it, but she could feel it. That I had the sales respect and background, that I had prepped for them, that I was fully present to what they needed. She knew that what she got from me was something that no one else could bring. So I am a unicorn. And I think why I was also touched is I'm not going to do this forever, although who knows, maybe at 90 I'm going to be telling people how to open a sales call, who knows. I don't think I'll be doing it forever, so it was really precious to have this kind of integrative thing where it's I'm not worried so much about do they like me, I'm thinking about what outcome they're going to have. I am a unicorn. And you know what? So are you. And so are you. And so are you. And I'd like us to, I think that's worthy enough of us saying it together. So if you're comfortable, give a little attention to yourself and say, I am a unicorn. I am a unicorn. And then catch the eye of somebody, particularly somebody you don't know. You may not know much about them, but you do know this one thing. Let's say it together. You are a unicorn. And you, and you, and you. Yeah. I am a unicorn, you are a unicorn. Our worth comes from the combination of skills and experiences and desires and strengths and weaknesses and challenges that are unique to us. So there is a you-sized place in the universe that is absolutely longing for you to step in more fully and fill it. Now, the thing about unicorns is unicorns do value themselves. So I know Reverend Leslie's message last week was about stewardship as self-care. Unicorns take care of yourselves, right? And that also means that unicorns are going to think about their work in the world with a lot of respect. So charge what you're worth and negotiate appropriately and set good boundaries. And if we realize that every single other individual is bringing a set of gifts and talents that is so worthy that they are an expression of the divine, we're going to be respectful when people are serving us, especially in today's world where we start to have an understanding of what service jobs are really all about. And we are very lucky many times to have someone serving us in the ways that they do. So there's something here in the idea of worth that I think just brings us all up. We're worthy. And then the final piece is wealth. So if we have a relationship with work that is of service, if our identity in terms of worth is so steeped in our uniqueness, we can bring those things together to experience a deeper walk with wealth. And I think of wealth as the infinite, eternal, abundant nature of the divine applied to our capacity to fund our dreams. We are wealthy when that which we desire to be about is sufficiently supplied. And a lot of what wealth requires is havingness, the ability to have and notice and be aware of that which we already are experiencing. It's a spiritual axiom that we cannot get from life any more than we have the capacity to have. And we know this as we think about our romantic relationships. If a friend comes to you and says, I want to meet the one, and when I meet the one, then I'll start taking care of myself and developing patience and all of these other wonderful attributes. And we would say to that person, oh, friend, don't wait, start now. Because we know, right? It's like you can't get love that you can't experience for yourself. Well, the same thing about wealth. And one of the things I really wanted to honor Reverend Karen Einhaus, our senior minister, and the stewardship team, it's like Renee and Judy and all the folks involved with it, is like New Vision Center has just lifted the game in terms of the stewardship, like maturity and professionalism and just the solidness, right? Do you all feel that? Yes. Like, I feel like, when they did that chart of like how much money do you make and what it would be like if you're giving 10%, I'm like, I got to get my game up there. I'm like, I want to make more so I can give more. It's like there's something in the, we so respect what we do have that we're able to be a platform for more. So when it comes to wealth, we're always looking to build wealth through our actions and experience wealth through our awareness. And both are essential elements of a wealth-building experience. And there's a final aspect of this. It's something called consumer versus creator. So this is a distinction that it's Robert Martinez will give this distinction for entrepreneurs that we're coaching. And so it applies to entrepreneurs, but it also applies to us as spiritual seekers and members of a community. Consumers. Consumers are the folks who buy the thing, who are the team members, who attend the stuff. They are the recipients, consumers. It's good to be a consumer. Creators. Creators are the ones who teach the class, who lead the group, who sell the thing. They're often the ones who are the leaders. And it's good to be a creator. Different times in our life, different seasons of our life, different aspects. There'll be times to consume, times to create. What I notice about where the world is wanting us And for many who have, applied spiritual principles to the point where their own personal lives are not in chaos and you feel happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise, is it starts to be the time where the Creator calls. The Creator energy is calling, which means, can you be the first to forgive? Can you be the one who leads the group? Can you be the one who brings not just a problem to something, but comes with 3 solution ideas? Can you be the one who apologizes first? Can you be the one who shifts the tone? Like, where can you be the proactive creator of the world that you desire? I think that is calling to us. All right. So, this has been a message about work where they're lucky to have you, and you are the source, and you're of service. It's your worth, so your identity, you're that irreplaceable, special giver. And this has been a conversation about our stewardship of our time and talent as we give to life, as we give to the New Vision Center and beyond. When we do that, we are wealthy. Peace and blessings, everybody. Yeah. All right. So let us pray. Let us anchor this in prayer. How grateful I am to recognize that the infinite, abundant, creative presence of life, God, Spirit, truth, that it is the great reality, all-powerful, ever-present, all-knowing, as each one of us. I remember my own nature, and I am so honored to celebrate the divinity, the truth of each and every one connected to this prayer in this moment. How good it is to know the truth of the divine as us. And from this foundation, I speak a word. And I invite the practitioners and ministers of religious science to stand, to rise with me. Practitioner students, anyone who has claimed to be a practicer of the science of mind, rise. You can stand up, you can rise up in energy. Join me in this prayer as we claim, know, and accept that the gifts of the natural harvest are ours, not just for our own consumption, but for the giving and the sharing with all of life. I affirm for each that anything that is on our hearts and minds as a request for prayer, we already have the answer. It's us. We are the wholeness, the life, the freedom, the truth, the peace, the grace, the abundance. Life is living itself and answering our prayers through each and every one of us. And I am so grateful for this. I give thanks that the law of life says yes to this prayer. We give thanks and we release the word. We let it go, we let God be God, and in agreement we say, and so it is.